Dragons are often considered the strongest Pokemon type, which is why Lance, the original Dragon Tamer, is the strongest Kanto Elite Four member. And so, I've modded a Pokemon Fire Red game to play through it as Lance, and I'm doing it as a hardcore Nuzlocke. Our adventure with Lance starts at his mommy's house, where he runs around for joy because of his awesome cape. And check out this trainer card. Pretty cool, huh? Lance's starter is obviously going to be a Dratini. After all, this guy has 3 of them on his team. But I will only get 1. The rest of my Pokemon, well, you'll have to see. Right after getting my first dragon, Beowulf the Dragon Slayer appears and tries to, well, slay my dragon. Literally, not metaphors or anything here. Now the only moves that Shenron knows are Wrap and Leer, but she is an almighty dragon, right? I have nothing to fear. Except for a crit tackle by a freaking little Bulbasaur. Now that was disappointing. In Nuzlocke, the run generally doesn't start until after you get Pokeballs, so after collecting the Dragon Balls, I get to bring Shenron back to life just this once. We expertly make it to Viridian City by running away from all the Pokemon, because Shenron apparently really sucks. 1 Pokedex later, and the run officially begins. No more dying will be accepted. I briefly consider facing Beowulf again on Route 22, but Shenron and I are still traumatized by the last fight, so I'm a pass. I bet you didn't realize that Lance's origin story was filled with this much running away. Of course, there is one Viridian Forest trainer you can't avoid, but Shenron finally wins something for once in her life, and with that, things are looking up. And if you want to be a winner, just like Shenron, then subscribe to the channel, because doing so wins you a lifetime supply of random Pokemon challenge videos like this one. The first gym leader, though, might be an issue. You see, Brock has rock-hard Pokemon, and believe it or not, Wrap is not very effective against them. So, to give myself a fighting chance, I changed Shenron's DNA to make her learn Twister just a little bit early. Now, it's still not a strong move by any means, but it is special in this generation. So, Geodude falls in 2 hits. The Onix is a bit tougher, but can't stand up to this mini hurricane. Now, just like the previous Elite Four ROM hacks that I've done, check those out if you haven't seen them already, after each badge, I am allowed to get another Pokemon, for the most part. And who better to get right now than buy a Magikarp, the Toothless Daydream. On the other side of Mount Moon, for some weird reason, my Limbless Dragon and Fish are unable to learn Mega Punch and Mega Kick. This is an outrage, but they can't even learn that yet either. Right before Misty, Toothless manages to evolve, but not into a Night Fury. That is a common misconception. Instead, spoiler alert for the books, he is actually a Sea Dragonus Giganticus Maximus, which I thought was mighty appropriate for a Gyarados. Either way, he grows some teeth and has a pretty mean bite. Still, not to let him have all the fun, I lead with Shenron against Misty. She is doing decently well, all things considered, and actually ends up defeating Staryu. I swap to Toothless on Misty's ace, who uses his newfound fangs to bite down on this star, as it uses Swift and Water Pulse. Well, that wasn't so bad. Before I can get too comfortable though, Beowulf returns to finish off what he started many moons ago. To make up for her lackluster appearance last round, Shenron twisters the Pidgeotto and the Rattata, but plays with the Abra just a bit. And then this monster appears. In spite of being put to sleep 2 freaking times, Shenron can almost make it, but not quite. Instead, I bring out Toothless to finish him off. Yet something changed in Shenron that day. She became enraged, and after getting away from this smelly Anglo-Saxon, she decides to Dragon Rage through the entire Nugget Bridge all on her own. Learning this move at level 22 is pretty legit. Not as legit as finding our newest dragon, not you, a Charmander. I picked this route because in yellow, this is where the guy abandons his Charmander, so it seemed appropriate. Welcome to the team, Smog. He doesn't have wings like a hurricane yet, but I'm sure he eventually will if he keeps trying. After eating some trash berries, we have yet another Beowulf encounter. Shenron takes out the bird again, but is hyper-fanged pretty hard by this rat. So Toothless comes out to tackle it, and the Kadabra as well, though Smog comes out to Ember the Ivysaur. With him down, we head to Lieutenant Surge. I may not have any ground Pokemon, but as everyone knows, Smog likes to live underground, so he is a digging master, after he first embers the Voltorb. Pikachu is dig-dugged, though the Raichu avoids it with the double team, and then paralyzes him. Trashberry heals it, but a crit shockwave would now take him out. Shenron misses a Dragon Rage, unfortunately, and then I need to risk a crit even after an Oran Berry. The next Dragon Rage then does connect, and I win the third badge in a not so spectacular way. In spite of our depressing victory, I still earn a new Pokemon. Now OG Lance does not have a very versatile team with 3 Dratini-like Pokemon. So to fill the gap, I decided to use the Pokemon he has in rematch battles like this here Bagon. Welcome to the team, Alduin, the World Eater. I lead with my newest dragon for the Erica fight because I taught him Aerial Ace. Of course, it was very weak, and I quickly removed him in place of Smog. He takes out Victory Bell and the Tangela too. Once again, Smog is paralyzed, this time by Vileplume, but he still heals it and embers the flower. As I take out the Game Rocket corner, both Shenron and Alduin finally evolve. They're still not great, to be honest, but it's a marked improvement. Still, Toothless is my go-to Pokemon for Giovanni, since he can use Water Pulse on the first 2 Pokemon. And then, after being Mega Punched, he does need to run away. Alduin manages to hit Kangaskhan a few times, but has lower defense, so I pivot to Shenron on another Mega Punch, before bringing Alduin back out to finish the battle. That Kangaskhan always gives me so much trouble. I'm getting awfully tired of these Beowulf encounters, so let's make this one quick. Alduin headbutts the Pidgeotto, and the Gyarados too. My Gyarados Water Pulses Growlithe, bites Kadabra, and Dragon Rages the Ivysaur. Compared to Giovanni, that guy was a cinch. Not only do I wake up Snorlax with my awful music skills, someone apparently didn't pay attention in the recorder lessons back in elementary school, but Alduin then proceeds to ram his head into Snorlax's fat belly until he dies. It wasn't a pretty sight, but Snorlax just kinda let it happen. But he needed to be removed so I could get a Super Rod and fish up my next encounter, Saphira. She may be too small to ride at the moment, but I'm sure that after eating a few Urgles, she'll grow quite a bit, which starts to happen basically immediately. And Smog finally grows into his namesake as well. After hesitating for a few moments, I decide to evolve Saphira once again into Kingdra. This is a Pokemon that Lance has in the Kanto Elite Four rematch, replacing one of his Dragonairs. Now that my team is filling out very nicely, Beowulf returns to try and end my journey once and for all. Smog starts by flamethrowing Pidgeotto, and our 2 Gyaradoses, or should I just say Gyarados, face off, but mine wins. Growlithe is surfed, and Alakazam is bit and strengthened. Smog then returns to flamethrower the Venusaur. I swear, there are far too many rival battles in this game. This time, for the crime boss, I just use Saphira to surf the Nidorino and the Nidoqueen in a few hits, before swapping to Toothless to intimidate Kangaskhan. He wins in a few strengths, and then surfs on the Rhyhorn. We haven't had a gym leader badge in a while, so let's hit up Sabrina. Toothless has actually grown to somewhat like me, thanks to all the fish that I give him, so return one-shots Kadabra, Mr. Mime, and almost Venomoth. But she misses, so it doesn't matter. The 2 Hyper Potions though, those do matter. Alakazam outspeeds, of course, but also falls in one hit. That was smooth. Before facing Koga, I need to get another encounter, this time a Swablu. Altaria is another Pokemon that Rematch Lance uses in the Johto remix. And since this is the last Pokemon I'll catch, why not use a Master Ball? Now Norberta is fairly violent, she is a dragon after all, and those Ridgebacks are particularly nasty once they evolve. To show you what I mean, we can use Koga as an example. Norberta starts with a single Dragon Dance, heals a Toxic, and Fly fails to kill Coughing, who blows up in her face. Well, that was not particularly fearsome now, was it? Okay, Saphira comes out as Muck minimizes, but she still connects with 2 Surfs, diluting this Sludge Ball. Toothless fails to one-shot his other Coughing 3 times in a row before it finally works. I try to give Shenron some time to shine here, but she is immediately crit, so Smog finishes the battle instead. That gym battle did not go the way I had planned. Not at all. I am very disappointed in you, Norberta. Even though she was my last catch, I can still get another encounter by stealing this piece of rock and tricking a scientist into swapping it for an Aerodactyl, who I name Mushu. This time, I am determined to sweep the gym with my brand new Pokemon. He Ancient Powers Growlithe, and the Arcanine too, but he quickly runs out of steam because Ancient Power only has 5 PP, and he got a surprising lack of Omni Boosts. Wing Attack is weak, thanks to the double Intimidate, so let's just swap to Saphira, who quad resists fire. It's not the way I wanted this to go, but it's a solid backup plan. Since I've already got all my encounters, I head to the 8th gym leader, who looks an awful lot like the criminal mastermind I've already defeated. But I'm sure the Pokemon League vets their gym leaders better than that, right? To avoid another Saphira sweep, Shenron instead sweeps with her own Surf. That is, until she gets a Nidoking. Smog avoids an Earthquake and manages to one-shot with Flamethrower, which was a bit surprising, actually. And then I do allow Saphira to Surf the Rhyhorn, who really should have been a Rhydon, but whatevs. With that new level cap, Alduin can finally evolve into his final flying form. Shenron, not so much. In the penultimate Beowulf challenge, yes, Lance does know big words, he is more than just a dragon jock, I allow Shenron to let loose a little and show off his move pool. Thunderbolting Pidgeot, Gyarados 2, Surfing the Rhyhorn, and the Growlithe 2. She paralyzes Alakazam, and Alduin takes a pretty strong Psychic on the swap. Fly doesn't miss, thank Odin, and takes out Alakazam. In anticipation of the future attack, Norberta is pulled out to Dragon Dance, and then to Fly. This Fly does miss, and then the next one fails to one-shot. Of course, she quad resists Venusaur, so I'm not really concerned here. In Victory Road, I spend more time than I care to admit trying to steal a rocks from Onixes. It doesn't end up working, and I just give up. Mushu starts off the lower life fight with an Ancient Power Omni Boost, which was pretty awesome. Dugong heals, but falls in 2 wing attacks. Anticipating Protect, I use Wing Attack against the Cloyster, and then Ancient Power, though it still fails to one-shot. Jinx is one-shot, as is the Lapras. Slowbro uses Yawn, but Mushu never ends up asleep. I had intended to swap to Saphira for that fight, but Mushu completely rocked it with that Omni Boost. Before the Bruno fight, Shenron finally unlocks her true potential with the help of an Elder Kai who lives in a sword. So it's finally time to see how good the OG dragon is. She surfs the Onix, flies on Hitmonchan, but Machamp survives. After avoiding a Rock Tomb, Surf finishes off that Machamp. We have another Fly for Hitmonlee, and one last Surf for another Onix. Dragonite is obviously awesome, but let's be honest here. Defeating Bruno single-handedly is not all that impressive. Bruno does kind of suck, after all. Norberta starts off with a Dragon Dance against Agatha, but Gengar starts to spam Double Team. Okay, let's use Perish Song instead. We both swap on the last turn, though Alduin gets confused, so Shenron comes out to Thunderbolt the Golbat. The first Gengar falls in a few Thunderbolts, but after a Screech, I pivot to Saphira, who is also Screeched, but uses Surf. Her last Gengar and Haunter are put back into the grave by a few more Surfs. I had intended to do a Norberta Fly Sweep, but that obviously didn't work. To make the Lance battle a little more interesting, I have decided to give him the exact team that I'm using right now, starting with his own Smog. Mushu one-shots with Ancient Power, but no boost this time. This baits out a Surfing Kingdra, or a Dragon Dance, which is not great, and Saphira gets Ice Beam Frozen, which is also not great. She immediately does Thaw, thankfully, and Twister takes out this imposter. Next, the 3 flying dragons Lance has are all Ice Beamed one after another. They never stood a chance. Last is Aerodactyl. Mushu comes back out to Ancient Power on a Hyper Beam, and then, after a heal, he proves himself superior. Good job, team. We defeated this fake Lance. Last, and certainly least, is Beowulf. This is his final opportunity to take out my dragons. Of course, with a beast like Shenron, that is not going to happen. She Thunderbolts his 2 flying types, and then surfs on the Rhydon. After hitting Alakazam once, I pivot to Norberta, who's got pretty good special defense, she Dragon Dances, and then does a Fly. Too bad Arcanine ruins her attempted Dragon Dance sweep with an Intimidate. Mushu comes out to Ancient Power, and gets another Omni Boost. Where are these all coming from? Arcanine heals, but is now one-shot, leaving only the Venusaur. I misclick Thief here, allowing the sword to grow a bit bigger, but when I select the right move, he is immediately defeated. And with that, Lance has shown that he is indeed strong enough to become the champion of the Pokemon League. At least for a couple of years, until some gold kid comes to ruin it. Anyway, that is the end of this run. Lance's team is so solid, I didn't really expect a difficult time, at least not once I got a Gyarados. It was smooth sailing from there, for the most part. Feel free to go to the Google Drive link below to try this ROM for yourself. With that, there is only one last Kanto Elite Four member to use, and that's Bruno, which is gonna suck. So make sure you're on the lookout for that, so you can watch me suffer.